Hello there.
Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, what have we here?
Jedi, we've been expecting you.
Knew I could count on you.
Hello.
Welcome to the rebellion.
What fun!
The other day, you may have watched my review of the Star Wars The Black Series Dogma and Hardcase 2-pack, and it is a very, very nice addition to the Black Series. But if you have been a viewer of the channel for some time, or just looked at my shelves in the backdrop, you may have noticed these guys are not just now being added to my shelves. 2 years ago, these were the OG versions that you could put on your shelf. These are the offerings from Veilstoys, a bootleg figure company on AliExpress that has made a lot of money that Hasbro could have been making all this time on Clone Troopers. They have been making all the named Clone Troopers that up until now Hasbro has been afraid to make for some reason. And today I want to do a comparison between the two. While I am replacing these on my shelves with the official Hasbro versions because, well, they're the official Hasbro versions, let's see which one of these are actually the better offerings of the two. There's some interesting things that are going to compare, and let's see who's done them better. All right, let's dive into Dogma and Hardcase here and see what ones have been done better. So, starting with Dogma, we'll go ahead and dive into accessories on these. I'm going to be honest, not a whole lot of difference here. Both of them come with both of the standard Clone Trooper rifles, and the Veilstoys ones have a tendency to be a little bit warped. This one's fairly straight, as is this one, and the long rifles really usually are super warped when you get them. You soak them in warm water, you straighten them out, it works, but still something of an annoyance. Dogma comes with the, well, I say Dogma, new Dogma, Hasbro Dogma comes with both of these as well in that kind of dark gray instead of the black coloring that Veilstoys uses. I think the black coloring is nicer, but Hasbro was able to get them to me not damaged, so there is a difference in that. Now, because of the Veilstoys ones coming out, when they did, they are on the 2020 Clone Trooper sculpt. Veils has since acquired the 2023 Clone Trooper sculpt, but they've not reran the 501st Troopers in them yet, which honestly is probably for the best because it makes these a little bit of an easier pickup, but you'll have some things that you can't, you can knock the figure because it's how it comes, but, like the smaller shoulder pads, it's just a problem of what it came from, rather than, like a mass production choice. So, looking at these side by side, the Veilstoys one does have a bit of a gloss to it, whereas the Hasbro offering has a little bit of a more satin finish. He's not as glossy. Clone Trooper armor is glossy in the movies, so there's a part of me that's like, maybe the Veils is taking the point there. But the one thing that I will say on the finish we absolutely can give Veils the point on is Dogma has that weird weathering on his chest and face, and nowhere else. His arm stripes and leg stripes are perfectly pristine and clean, and my big issue with that is there's no weathering at all on the figure to imply that he's dirty, so where did that battle damage come from? Now, the same thing could be said for the Veils, but at least he has the scuffing on the legs and the arm stripes as well, and the scuffing on the chest is a little bit more subtle. So, if you're going to do it everywhere, but my opinion is don't do it at all, just keep them clean. But otherwise, the Veils does have some extra printing on the back of the hand plates. I do believe that to be accurate. So I think ultimately on the paint side of things, I do want to give the point to Veils. Veils has a tendency to have some QC issues, where paint apps can be a little bit sloppy. But this one seems to be pretty dead on. And then one other thing, this is a critique. If you look at the tops of the heads here, the Veils one has some warping because they go ahead and they glue the helmet sculpt down over a white blank head and underneath, and there's really not a lot of reason to do that. I will give Hasbro the point on actually going the mile and giving us the removable helmet feature. However, the helmet is a little bit too deep for the bald Clone Trooper profile they made for Dogma, so you can push it down all the way to where the helmet is really resting on the chest armor there. You have to pull it back up a little just to give them that little bit of a gap in the armor that, is there for clearance and such. So, ultimately, I will say on the Dogmas, it's a little bit harder to say who did it better. Ultimately, the Hasbro one is legitimate. It feels a little bit nicer. There is a little bit of a smell to the Veilstoys ones. They have a very noxious, chemically smell to them. And even after being in my display for a couple of years, you don't smell it unless you put the guy right up to your nose. But there is a pretty rank chemical odor to them. Whereas the Hasbro one is nicer. It's licensed. It's gone through some QC, if you will. So ultimately, these ones are a little bit harder to tell, I will say, like as far as like what's better or what's worse, but I do want to give the edge to the Hasbro one. But Veils really did a great job on their Dogma figure, to the point where if you had him, I could understand not caring enough to upgrade, if you will. So we're going to set these guys back down back here. I'm giving it to Hasbro, but it's a close fight. What's a less close fight is going to be the case with Hardcase. So we're going to bring him up here and take a look at these weapons. So Hasbro had to make a new weapon for Hardcase. So did Veils. This is the Veilstoys Z6 rotary cannon. It is all one piece. There's no moving parts on it, although this piece is very warped on mine and always has been, this bottom rail. It's very short. It's very stubby, and then interestingly, this handle is angled backwards to where it's really hard to get him to point it forward, just because like he'd have to like have his hand rocked way back, and it just doesn't move that way, compared to the Hasbro offering like so. This one is much larger. It's got some paint apps on it. The barrel rotates. You've got a little bit of movement on the handles just to make it, a little bit more easy to carry. I gotta say, the Hasbro Z6 smokes it. For whatever reason, Veils decided theirs needed to be silver, just like Hasbro. These are supposed to be that dark gunmetal gray, almost black, like all the other Clone Trooper guns. Not really sure why they've decided these need to be silver, but I guess they were thinking alike thoughts there. Looking at the figures, once more, the Veils offering is very, very glossy, very shiny, whereas the Hasbro offering is more matte. And other than that, bring these in. The Hasbro one does nicer on the deco. It is a little bit more accurate how it comes up and squares down, whereas the Veils kind of diamonds down. And then the Hasbro one is a clean, there's no weathering, not on the head, not on the chest, whereas on the Veils offering, the chest has that scuffing on it, where again, there's no weathering on the rest of the clone. So what are you doing? Something I'd mentioned in the review of the Hasbro ones is all this thin line work on Dogma would make it so easy to have some quality control issues. And when you go like the line over the top of the helmet, it is possible to have that be a little out of whack, although mine did turn out fairly nice. That's the Hasbro offering. The Veilstoys offering on mine did not turn out so nice. You go around the back, it is very out of whack. The face printing is relatively nice, but then the blue around the eyes does not always hit. You have some white gapping going on in there between the visor and the blue paint, and that's just not quite accurate. They're supposed to basically completely cover it in blue, and this has always looked a little bit sloppy. And then combine that with the fact that the Hasbro one features a removable helmet with one of the best likenesses and most interesting likenesses with those tattoos going on under there. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I think the point is really easy to give Hasbro here, especially, again, I don't want to fault these figures for being on the 2020 clone mold, because it was what was available at the time, but when you do compare it to the 23 mold, it is a very easy thing to be like, well, of course the 23 mold is better. So for me, the Veilstoys figures have served their purpose for a long time, and I still have a number of them on the shelf. I still have Phase 2 Jesse, I have Tup, I have Kix. These are some great figures and ones that I'm super happy to have on the shelf. But as long as Hasbro keeps doing these exactly like they are now, and they don't drop the bar, which Hasbro can do, don't worry, they've done it before. As long as the bar is not dropped, I'm going to happily replace my Veils anytime with the Hasbro offerings. So at this point, my Hasbro offerings have sent the Veilstoys clones packing, if you will. I'm happy that I had those. They served a great purpose on my shelf for a long time, but how can you compete with this awesome new 2-pack? Hasbro, keep working through the Umbara clones. There's a rumor that Paul and Krell is coming. That ATRT from San Diego Comic-Con was awesome. This 2-pack is awesome. We need a new Phase 2 Captain Rex. We need a new ARC Trooper 5s with the Umbara campaign helmet. And we need anyone from the 501st that was on Umbara in the line pronto. This would be an awesome display for any fan of the Clone Wars to complete. And we shouldn't have to rely on bootleg figures to fill gaps for iconic named characters. So, anyway, glad to shuffle those off. Those are going to probably end up rehomed. I might offer them for sale at some point. But the Hasbro ones are here to stay. So, great job, Hasbro. You beat the competition. So, anyway, let me know if you enjoyed this, if I should do more of these comparison-type videos. Of course, I can only really do them when Hasbro makes something, replacing something that Veils has made before. So it's going to be entirely, as opportunity comes. But, all the same, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. May the Force be with you. Have a good one. Bye.